Well, basically we administer the floodplain management program, the National Flood Insurance Program, and that entails not only determining what flood zone the people are in, but also what the regulations for their particular development that they're wanting to do, depending on if it's commercial or residential. So we have to look at the regulations and work with them on their project. Right after the hurricane, we had a lot of assessment being done on the area, and we were determining if a particular home was substantially damaged or not. So at the very beginning, people knew if their property was substantially damaged, what they would have to do. We tried to advise them at that, at the very beginning, so they would know when they got to that point when they were getting ready to repair it, what they would have to do. So I think it's not really something new for them. It's just that unless they bought a property recently and weren't familiar with the history of it, it may be a surprise to them.
And what are the main things that people need, important things that people need to do generally when they're building a house to withstand floodwaters?
Well, I think, of course, first look and see what the flood zone is, to know what elevation they need to build to, and also look at the flood history of the area, because some areas, even though they're not declared to be in a flood hazard area, they have still flooded, so they need to know, what the flooding history of that particular area is. And now with all the new building codes, they have to meet all those wind load requirements. So it's really in their best interest to build to the new requirements to prevent them from future flooding or future damage.
And some parishes are doing even more, or they're trying to make the requirements higher than they anticipated.
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, there's some areas in the parish that we have higher standards than what FEMA requires, and because we've seen the history of that particular area, knew that we had either poor drainage in the area or flooding history, so we've increased the elevation requirements, or actually made a requirement in that particular area. And again, it's to protect the citizen from having to go through the flooding event.
A standard speech that you either give to friends or people come in your office when they say, well, I just want to rebuild my house the same elevation. I don't know why people should interfere. Do you have a kind of response for that?
Yeah, unfortunately it's not an option that they can just, choose it out for themselves right there, because it affects the whole parish of what people do, because they may not want to get insurance on their house or whatever that for their particular time, but they could sell that house to the next person, that person would have to get it, and so it's just a generational thing. It just doesn't affect that one person, and if they don't comply, then we could lose the whole program. People wouldn't be able to get flood insurance for the whole parish, and that would be devastating for our area, since we do have so much area in the floodplain.